Hey, good afternoon. This is Wilfredo Aguilar bringing you the word of the day. Um, Today we're going to be talking about news. Is there news in the Bible? There's good news. Good news. Thank God. When it comes to news, different like nouns, it all has to do with the bar, the word. That's a very interesting in English. So news. It's funny what we're experiencing in the U.S. In the U.S., we are getting censored by it's not even just comic programming where they do like talk about news or stuff. We're being censored by the social networks. We're being censored um, by media in general, like certain medias would only show information on bad news, and it has to be around our current president Donald Trump. If it's good news for him, it's not shown. It's totally blocked everywhere. They just focus, even if he tweets something or he says something sarcastic, they'll take it as a literal, and then they'll use it in their favor. So it's really bias. They call it a biased news, and they're even doing fake news where they lying about stuff just to stick to their narrative. Is horrible. It's horrible, but it's not that type of news that I'm going to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about the news of God. God's news, and it's a good news. It seems like we wish, God will do something, and then, but we don't realize that God is in the fight. He's he's um he's fighting. He's automatically doing stuff for us. Um, and it's not. There is opposition. There's opposition. There's enemies of God that God is subduing under Jesus, under his foot. So, so the news. What's the news? What's the news? Isaiah 53:1. Who has believed? Aman. Who has believed what we have heard? It's interesting that this word news, it also has to do with fame, um, fame, news. It is into whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed. So who has heard? Some other version says, who has heard? Who has believed a report? So it could be report, news, publication, something that you heard, a rumor. So that's what we've been doing now with the news. It's like we know that the news is not being is being biased, so we have to like do news within our network of people that we know, and then everybody has to find find the truth of what's going on, and because we're not getting the real news. But in this case, the report is the fame of the arm of the salvation of God, the strength. We talked about what the arm means in a previous video. So what is the arm? What is the arm? What's the revelation? What is this news? This good news, this publication, this report, and who has believed in this publication? And it's interesting that today, uh, well, in the time of Jesus, even when Jesus was in person, ministering, doing his ministry, uh, people would hear the news. People will listen. I mean, John the Baptist heard the news from jail, that what Jesus was doing, and he still went and sent people, his disciples, to investigate, to verify the news. That's kind of like the thing we're doing right now, trying to verify the news, what is true, what is not, because we're being bombarded by fake news. So John sends people to verify the news, and then this lady who was had a flu of blood um, heard the fame of Jesus, the news of Jesus. She heard about Jesus, and she started telling herself, if I only touch the garment, the tassels, the corners that remind um, Jewish people of the commandments of God. If I only touch His work, His perfect, His finished works, I will be healed. And she press on, even though she was breaking the law of Moses. Um, he was going after being whole, made whole, healed, and also ultimately keeping the law. Because if it's not Jesus and the law, it's Jesus only. That's why um, our next challenge after the president gets installed in the U.S. is going to be uh, Israel moving from being Judaism to being Christ Center, because that's the only way you can keep the law, by believing and trusting on the man himself, Jesus of Nazareth. Judaism doesn't save you. As a matter of fact, it gotten the Jewish people in so much trouble because they can't keep the law. They try to do it legally, but they can't do it. They always fall short, and that's why cycles, repeated cycles. Seems like we're in the middle of another cycle that wants to get repeated, and 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 God has intervened so that the enemy doesn't overrule in this cycle and does his work like he did in Second World War, World War, and other times when he persecutes the Jewish people. So God is helping us by interceding, killing those enemies of life, of communism, and all those enemies that are against us. So, who has believed the report of Jesus? Who has believed the report of Jesus, the arm of the Lord? And and then we hear this report. Verse 2 is Isaiah 53. He grew up before him like a young plant, like a root out of the dry ground. He didn't have an impressive form or majesty that we should look at him, no appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, of suffering, who knew what sickness was. He was like someone people turn away from. He was despised, and we didn't value him. Yet himself bore our sickness, and he carried our pains. But we, in turn, regarded him stricken, struck down by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced because of our rebellion, crushed because of our iniquity. Punishment for our peace was on him, and we are healed by his wounds. We went astray like sheep. We all turned out our own way, and the Lord has punished him. Punished Jesus in his flesh, um, for all the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, and yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb led to the slaughter, like a sheep silent before his shearers, he didn't open his mouth. He was taken away because of the oppression and judgment. And who considered his fate? For he was cut off from the land of the living. He was struck because of my people's rebellion. He was assigned a grave in the wicked, but he was with a rich man at his death. Because he has done no violence, he has not spoken deceitfully, yet the Lord was pleased to crush him severely. When you make him a guilt offering, he will see his seed. Now we're the sons of Jesus because of his sacrifice for us. He will prolong his days, and by his hand the Lord's pleasure will be accomplished. The will of God. That's as the will of God on the earth. God has a vision. I know we have, as believers, we we cry, we desire a revival, a glory pouring. Well, God desires more than we do. As a matter of fact, we can see it throughout the Bible that the vision of God is to fill the earth, all the earth, with the glory of God. That's his main goal, and he wants to achieve that. So it's not just us, it's actually the heart of God. That's the will of God. So in order for him to do that, he needed to give us Jesus, have him punish. And this is the report. This is the news. This is the good news. This is the news uh, that gives us life, that lets us know what happens. So yet the Lord was pleased, verse 10, to crush him severely. When you make him a guilt offering, he will see his seed, he will prolong his day. By his hand, the Lord's pleasure will be accomplished. Verse 11, after his anguish, he will see light and be satisfied by his knowledge. My righteousness servants will justify many, and he will carry their iniquities. Before I will give him the many as a portion, and he will receive the mighty as a spoil, because he's willingly submitted to death and was counted among the rebels. Yet he bore the sins of many and interceded for the rebels. It's interesting that Peter says that Jesus descended when he died, descended and took the captive. And this what Peter says is that he took the captive free. He freed the captive. All those spirits that die in the flood. There were some that were captive. When they died, God punished those people. They were captive, and when Jesus died, he descended and gave them the news, and somehow God was able to give those gifts, those people that those spirits were that had. So he took them captive. He's he liberated them. That's what Peter says in his letter, and that's why this is it says there that I will give him as a portion in verse 12, and he will receive the mighty as the spoil. Those mighty people that die in that flood with the judgment, um, Jesus was able to get those mighty spoil. As those spirits, he freed them. Now he frees us too. He frees us. We saw on the video yesterday, we talk about when God gives, it's in us now. It's in us. So he gave his son. We have his son in us. Just like Solomon had the wisdom of God, and it was in him. We is the same thing with us. So not only did he take that spoil over there from the flood, he's harvesting soul. That's why Jesus says it's necessary for me to lay my life, and then when I'm raised up, I will draw everybody to me. So Jesus is has the will of God in his plan, and and no news can stop that. So soon will be over. President Trump will be back in office, and then the next challenge will be the grace of God to pour in Israel, to change their shift from Judaism to the person of Christ, to the man, to the flesh of Jesus, to his blood. And we can do it because God sent us Jesus. So it's a done deal. Okay, so that's it. That's it for today. God bless you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.